Ladies and gentlemen, ATDF everything in that shelf presentation. You're now rocking with TDF everything. Spoiled Rotten.
Spoiler alert.
Welcome back, everybody.
Hey,
It's me, Daniel,
and Ben
and this is Spoiled Rotten.
on that shelf.
Yeah.
And we're kind of hyper right now because I'm calling this the Red Eye Special
Oh, yeah.
because I just got off a plane, got my ass over to the studio.
And I also have red eyes because I'm very tired. 'Cause
Yeah.
at this point, I've seen Endgame 3 times, and I didn't see any press screenings, so it's not like I saw it.
Did you saw it today too?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
At
cool.
10:30 in the morning.
So there's gonna be a lot more like fresh stuff in your mind than
I guess
me,
so.
for sure.
I don't know. It's a lot of movie.
It's a lot of movie. That's my
And-
first thing I want to say right off the bat.
And
like, holy crap!
as such, we will not be doing any type of news at the beginning. We
Yep.
will just be talking about Endgame today. All right, here we go.
Yeah.
What did you think?
Oh man, this movie, it's difficult because there's a lot that this movie needed to do, and it does do those things very, very well while giving a lot of fan service. But at the same time, it seems like almost like the finale of Entourage, where it was like, oh, there's almost too much fan service here going on. What's going on with that? I don't know. What were your thoughts? You've seen it 3 times.
Yeah. So I liked it a lot more the second time.
Yeah.
I think everyone's initial reaction,
Mm-hmm.
not everyone, a lot of people I've like anecdotally heard
Yes.
and texted a couple people kind of are like, well, I like Infinity War better.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the same will happen for you is once you see it again, knowing where it's going, you'll see all the intricate things they're doing
Right.
that don't really lend themselves to me feeling like it's fan service
Yep.
so much as paying off how many every year 11 years basically of filmmaking.
Yep.
So to me in that sense it doesn't really feel like fan service so much as like, well, this is what we've been building to
Yes.
and we're about to pay it off.
Yeah, that's the great thing about this is all the character story arcs, all the individual arcs get wrapped up in this movie so well
Yeah.
that it's ridiculous. And I think the movie almost goes out of its way to be like, it's very self-aware to be like, all the fanboys is like, well, you should have done this or you should have done this. It's like, okay, well, the first scene, Thor just like chops off his arm right away. It's just like, yeah, there you go. You got what you wanted, but universes still have gone.
Yeah.
It was like the perfect thing in the world. It's like, yeah.
And that's what I was talking about in other episodes and even our text messages that like, I mean, they found a very smart way of making it about Thanos again, but
Just
for
very
me,
clever. Yeah.
for me, the fighting that Thanos again, I was like, what could he possibly care about
Yep.
at this point? Like, he already got it. I didn't see him destroying the stones, but even then, like, I would be like, it seems like it's already destroyed, really. Like, it's done its stuff. So, yeah, for me, I was just like, that doesn't make sense. So I'm glad they got all that out of the way, like, in the first 10 minutes.
Yeah,
like,
and
that was really well done.
That was one of the issues with the first 10 minutes is because like the marketing was so cleverly marketed only within like the majority of the marketing material was within that first like 10, 15
So, like,
minutes.
the only thing I guess they showed the very end and they showed the beginning.
Yes, they didn't show the in-between stuff, which
Yeah.
I really, really liked. But because we saw that footage so much in the marketing material, it's almost like the movie really struggles to get going because it's like, okay, we've seen this already. Let's go. Like,
So what I would say to you is I don't feel like it struggles to get going once you already know where it's going.
right.
Once having seen it, so here's what I would say. For now I'll stick to the main, like the original 6 Avengers. I'm not even getting into Hawkeye. I think that's quite clear what his storyline is.
Yes, of course.
And I'm talking about like not even just in this movie. That's what I thought was done so well is that you can apply what I'm saying to just this movie.
Yes.
But it applies to all of these characters. Or whenever I get to the character, it applies to them throughout the whole like,
the whole
things, filmography,
like the Infinity War saga. You're saying.
yeah, since Iron Man to now. Right. So as I said, the Hawkeye one is pretty obvious. Doesn't make it less effective, but it's obvious. He has a family to protect. When he lost his family, he went off the deep end. So giving him the thing of we can get your family back gets him back on board. He gets his family back. He's done. And that makes sense to me. And I thought it was really effectively done, especially when he's getting angry about stuff. Like when he tells Thor, like, yeah, I know. Look, why don't you get your hammer and fly back there and talk to him then if you think it's so easy. Like stuff like that I really liked because that's him losing family. So he's probably going to be really upset about it. And that's family he knows he can't just snap back into existence. So all of that stuff to me plays really well. I like it, and I still like him better in Civil War, but I really liked him in this. Like this and Civil War are probably the only times I've been like, yeah, Hawkeye, good character.
Because it's hard for him because he's a character that obviously needs to be written very, very well, and he doesn't get that until like 3 films in. And it's kind of hard to care for him at that point. Especially because he's such underpowered character. But it's just like he's really got a lot of heart in this movie. He really pulls it through, and I really appreciate that. I agree with you there.
I'm gonna, for obvious reasons, I'm gonna save Black Widow and Iron Man till the end of this run I'm about to go on. Thor and Hulk have similar through lines here of both characters, and again, I say you could apply this to all the movies they appear in, but for this movie in particular, their clear through line here for both of them is accepting who you are versus who you think you should be. And so when I first saw the movie, I kind of bumped up against how like kind of stupid Thor was being, but I realized that like, and this is what I say about like the beginning part of it, they're really piecing together where it's going, and I actually appreciate his overall arc more. And again, I feel like the Hulk stuff is a little more obvious because he just basically says, I thought he was a problem. He's actually the cure. So I spent 18 months in the lab, and now I'm the best of both worlds. And as you can see him, he's much happier. Like he's smiling all the time. He shared his food with Ant-Man. Like he's just in a better place because he accepted himself. So that arc kind of complete. You kind of see that like in the first time you see him after the 5-year jump, you're kind of like, oh, he's in a good place. He's happy. He's having a good time. The Thor one, obviously, we watch over the course of this movie, but like, so I didn't care about the he got fat stuff. I was because people kind of bump up. I've seen people upset about that, but
why were they getting?
I think they just think like, oh, they made him into a joke. But like, I
mean, did they not pay attention to Ragnarok? I mean, he was very jokish there, and where they're taking his
made him a joke, not him funny. So yeah. Well, but so what I'm saying is the idea is he's not supposed to be this self-serious leader of Asgard. That's what he thought he was supposed to be, and he is kind of a goof.
He's a huge goof. I mean, like, if
I'm not saying fat people are inherently goofs. I'm saying that like the way he was acting, regardless of how he looked throughout the movie, is closer to what he is. And so like his moment is when he goes back in time, getting Mjolnir. He's like, oh shit, I'm still worthy, and that's a big deal because if he's still worthy at that point, then he can embrace that a lot more, and and it becomes the Hulk stuff of like embracing who you actually are, or like not what you think you should be. I kind of mess with that because she says, "Don't be who you should be who you are," and I'm like, I feel like it's more like, "Don't be who you think you should be," because like who you are is who you should be.
And the Thor arc, it was just like, and I'd love to hear more about. I mean, people body shaming him. I mean, like I think that's.
I don't know if it's body shaming. I think
it's serving the story in a very, very good way, because it's just like the thing. Like I obviously when I rewatched the entire like 21 films before this one thing I realized that I never really realized before, between the events of Civil War and Infinity War starting, there's like months in between. It's not like years and years. It's like a few months for all that kind of stuff to happen. So it happens so rapidly. So we're seeing like Thor Ragnarok.
No, it is years. Between Civil War and
Before
Infinity
Civil War and Infinity War, it's like a year or something like that, right? It can't be.
I thought it was 2018.
Years. It's weird to place together because like when
it is 2018 because they say it's a 5-year jump and then they say it's 2023.
Yes.
So Infinity War is 2018, Civil War is 2016.
Yes. So, but 2 years, okay, I guess it didn't feel like 2 years, but that 2 year gap, a lot happens in that movie. And it's just like within that, the Thor Ragnarok, him losing the entire Asgard and all that kind of stuff. I'm like, yeah, he's basically lost he won the battle with Thanos, but he basically lost.
Well, he didn't win
else.
the battle. That's
no,
the
I mean
thing.
like the whole like, oh, I chopped you off your head thing. I've officially killed you.
Yeah,
like,
but
all
at that
kind of
point,
stuff, but
as-
it meant nothing to him
yeah.
at that point because he had nothing to fight for. It was like,
Well,
that
wasn't him winning though. He didn't when he chopped his head off. He didn't think that was a win, even in the moment. That's not like him reflecting on. That was him just acting up. He was just upset at that point.
Yeah, that wasn't a full win.
By the time they flip it over and the stones are gone, he's like, "Well, we're fucked, and
Yeah.
this is for nothing."
Yeah.
And that's what he talks to his mom about. So yeah, basically, we saw him have this mental breakdown
Yes.
over the course of the movie, which leads to some funny stuff. Don't get me wrong, but
Yeah.
it's not. It's. I guess that's kind of giving you the sugar with the medicine of like, no, you're still watching someone go through something,
Yeah.
and just not to bum you out. There's going to be funny moments that come out of that,
Yeah.
but. Yeah. So anyway, so that's their kind of arc, right? The Hulk and Thor. Mm-hmm. I hate to not end on Captain America, but obviously I was really happy about the Captain America stuff. We can get into the details of that,
yeah,
but
that
like
was the thing that you really
his
liked
thing,
about that, for sure.
his thing of like throughout the movie, and I think the scene that really proves this is the combination of the focus group, and then when he talks to Natasha after is. For as long as we've known the character, he's only ever thought of others and never.
Yes.
He never does anything for himself.
Yeah.
He's like throughout Winter Soldier, he's like constantly rebuffing Natasha's attempts to get him to date.
Yeah.
He doesn't want to indulge in anything. All he wants to do is the right thing, and so I like that. The end of the movie is him being like, "Fine, I'll put everything back, and then I'm going to do whatever I want.
Yeah,
And I'm
yeah.
going to go have my life with Peggy."
Yeah.
And then he comes back, and we can get to what he does when he comes back. But I thought like that was really good. Like he finally did. Like he fought off. Like he was willing to fight that army by himself.
Yeah.
And even when he's talking to Natasha, he's kind of like, "Yeah, maybe we don't need to be doing this." Like,
Yeah. I mean, like, at some point, like, he's got to recognize that he deserves something.
Yeah.
After, like, beating all those people, I don't think it's too far-fetched to be like, no, you deserve to have that life with Peggy, the one that you've always wanted and everything like that. Now that you also know how time travel works and it doesn't change it, because I'm pretty, like, that was one of the best things about the movie to me, is, like, how Banner explained, no,
we
this
will
is how
have to get
yeah.
to the time because I
Yeah.
was talking to a fellow That Shelf podcaster about it, but right before we started recording.
Yeah.
So we'll get to the time travel stuff. But yeah, so that's kind of his arc, as I said, like in this movie, but throughout all the movies, you can kind of see that
Yeah.
that's been his thing, and then it's always him denying himself having any form of life.
Well, that, also that there is a reason to deny himself. I mean, there's always another mission. There's always another
Yes.
thing. In this, there literally was no more mission, and he recognized that. And I love that he was just like, okay, no, the fight's over.
Yeah.
There's, I can't go looking for wars anymore. Like it's done. Like that's to me what was so great about his finale.
I guess I'll do Black Widow next. So she kind of got a twofer here,
She did.
whereas for me the big thing was how she created a family for herself.
Yes.
I only bring that up because there's moments in here you can see the highs and lows of it, like how happy she is to be around them.
Yeah.
And then how sad she is when it feels like
Yeah.
Hawkeye is beyond saving. Like, like that's the first time I feel like they've actually shown her being vulnerable in a movie. Like
Well, I
any
mean,
other
aside
time, it's
from-
been to like get something that she needs from somebody. She pretends to be
You mean
vulnerable.
aside from the like Bruce Banner, like, hey, I'm in love with you kind of thing. Like, I
Sorry,
mean,
yes, I forgot about that.
Yeah,
I think
okay.
this was more effective, but you're right. That
Yeah,
is
I mean,
that's
like-
her being vulnerable, being like, I want to be with you.
that's more about like, hey, I'm in romantic love with you versus this is like family love because
Yeah,
like,
no, but
the
I even mean like
platonic-
seeing because
her just
this movie
vulnerable,
is seeing
like emotional.
you're seeing the toll this is taking on all of them.
Oh,
right?
God, yeah.
And so I think that's more what I meant.
Yeah.
So I picked my words wrong. Like, yeah, everyone you get to see, like with Cap, it's kind of hard because he's constantly just taking on the toll and
Yeah.
wearing that on his face. But like for the other ones, you're really seeing like what this toll is, and I thought
yeah,
her arc was really beautiful because really what she's dealing with is I need this family to work out because they're probably the only ones that will accept me with how much red I have in my ledger. And then she finds a way to remove that by sacrificing herself to bring back billions of people.
Yeah.
So that, I mean, yeah, she does die, but it's kind of like there's that nice poetry to it of
It's
like she has found the
death,
one way that like she knows for sure that she can balance this out.
Yeah.
Giving her life to like legitimately save billions. And it's not like it's not a metaphoric thing. It's not just like a symbolic thing. It is literally like by her doing this, she can bring about all these people coming back.
Here's one of the things that bothered me about that one scene where Hawkeye and Black Widow go to Vormir and do the Soul Stones thing. So the idea there was like, to me, it was very, very clear who was going to die. It was going to be Black Widow, right? It was 100. Like the moment I saw that scene, I'm like, Black Widow's dead.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason why is like I don't know why they kind of went through the whole, I get why they did it, but they probably leaned into it a little bit too much. And this is just because of the extreme long runtime of that movie. When they lean into like, oh, Clint's going to be the one that sacrifices. No, this is like, I'm just like, isn't the demand of the Soul Stone that you lose something that you love? And at that point in time, for Hawkeye to fully lean into his Ronin character, arguably he doesn't love anything anymore. Like, arguably he's
done with the Ronin character, which is something I'll bring up later. But he's not Ronin when he's on the mission with them.
Well, which is fair. I mean,
so
I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
So he's
by that point, that's a moot point.
Okay, I see.
But I would like to get back to the Ronin. So we're going to talk about a lot. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah,
but like, I'm just trying to get through these arcs. So yeah, I think what I liked about that scene more the second time than the first time was you are visually seeing how much they love each other by trying to stop each other from getting out there. So I don't really think it's a function of them trying to like hide who's going to die, even though I have heard some people saying they didn't know which one would.
Right.
That's whatever. But what I think is more important.
Do you mean
is
the actors, or do you mean like Scarlett Johansson and Jeremy Renner didn't know who was going to die?
No. I'm saying to the audience. I don't think it's a function of trying to like.
Oh, I see.
Make you be like, oh, which one's going to die? It's more like you're seeing that they love each other so much that they wouldn't want the other. Because, I mean, essentially they're just repeating what they did with Thanos and Gamora, but it's a different dynamic. And so you see
the love is
the
more
literal push and pull of them trying to negotiate how this is going to work, because it isn't that weird love that Thanos has for Gamora, where she can be taken off, like, not off guard. What am I trying to say? Right? Taken by surprise by like, oh shit, you think you love me? That's not real love, and then get thrown off. This is them. They're the heroes, so they actually know what's at stake here. And I kind of liked the idea of Hawkeye being like, I get the sense we're thinking of different people here. Like that was nice, because then that does kind of put some murkiness on it. But again, it's not really important which one of them goes, other than if you look at it from how these stories have been told for Natasha's arc and her desperate need to make things right for what she feels were these horrible things she did in the past, which I'm assuming her movie will get into. Yeah,
because all I felt like during, like, to speak to her arc, the entire Infinity Saga, I feel like she just constantly like, how do I erase the ledger, like the black, the red in my ledger? And now she's like, no, the ledger's done, it's clean, but now I'm looking to do this thing purely for good. Now she's like totally converted. She's like, yeah, no, I'm totally good. Like, she's one of the
I don't think she thinks the ledger's clean, because that was what was pushing her to have those meetings every thing, is that she thinks bringing these people back is what's going to clean out her ledger. That's what she thinks.
I see.
She thinks if she can find a way to do that, that would be enough to clear out her ledger. I don't think she thinks that it's clean yet. That's what's pushing her in every scene, is we're going to do this. I'm going to clear out my ledger. Yeah, no, and then when she's like, oh, it means I'm going to have to die. Great. And then she says, I don't actually want to do this, but this is it. This is what's going to make me feel better about myself. And the family stuff is even driven further home when he's like, "What, you think this guy's telling the truth just because he knows your dad's name?" And she's like, "I didn't know my dad's name." And you're like, yeah, like this is all she has of these people. So like, even at that level, she would want to keep them alive. Yes. And be like, fine, I'm the one that dies, because I don't want to lose this family like that.
Or they deserve to live, not me, kind of deal,
Right.
or something
Yeah.
like that.
That's
or like,
that's
I'd
why I said it's
rather
kind of
they
like a
live.
twofer. It's kind of all getting wrapped into to it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the Black Widow stuff, and then the Iron Man stuff, which I do feel like I was telling Pauline I actually did kind of tear up at the
Oh my God,
the
I
last
cried
time,
so
which was it wasn't even that he died. It was looking back now. I see since that first movie,
Yep.
and I think even Iron Man 3 is about how he can't sleep, he can't rest, because all he cares about is protecting everyone.
Yep.
And obviously, it makes him look like a dick sometimes, but that's why I love that scene when he comes back and he's had time to like be like, all right, now that I'm feeling a bit better, fuck all of you.
Yeah.
Because I said we should protect the world.
Yeah.
And like,
I love that scene.
You see
It was
how
so
hurt he
good.
was that
Yeah.
he, like that, the fact that he makes the call back to like, you said we would lose together and we didn't. And like, you're
Yeah.
a liar. I hate you.
Yep.
Like, we're done.
He's
all
got
that.
so much resentment in his heart for that. And like, he was just
But
like,
yeah, he calls it resentment, but I feel like it's so much of the like, feeling like betrayed and stuff. Like I know that doesn't
is
negate
betrayal the right word or abandoned? I feel like abandoned is probably a better word here, but in the sense where, I mean, like Tony he's been a lone
Well,
ranger his
abandoned
whole
would
life.
mean like abandoned could still mean that he just left and never said anything.
I
Whereas
guess
betrayal is like he made a promise and he broke it.
Sure.
He's like I needed you. You weren't there, and you said we would do things together.
Right.
So you're a liar, and that's why I feel like there's abandonment and betrayal within that, in terms of how Tony sees it. But the idea that, like he can't sleep, he's up late trying to figure out the time thing because he feels like that can protect everybody.
Yeah.
Like that's the idea that he brings up. I think he said as a joke in the first Avengers, but in this one he's like, so we're the Avengers, right? Because we can't pre-Avenge, we can't do anything, we can't be reactive, we always have to be, we can't be proactive, we have to always be reactive. And so there's all this stress and anxiety for him over this, and then he knows, okay, I snap, I've protected everyone, and he's fighting to stay alive, I would imagine, and Rhodey's there, then Peter, and this is why, again, just as an actress, I never get the Gwyneth Paltrow hate, because she killed that scene where she was like,
She totally
hey,
did.
Look at me. We're
You can-
good.
yeah.
You can rest now.
You can rest
now.
now.
You can
Go
rest.
to sleep. Yeah.
Because that's what kind of pushed him was, he's like, hey, like I can put a pin in this, go to sleep. And he's like, yeah, but would you be able to rest?
Yep.
And I think that has been pulled across along throughout all the movies, and they very beautifully paid it off in that moment of being like,
I agree.
unfortunately, it's you're going to rest because you're dead, but it's like, you don't have to even fight in this moment. We're good. You have saved us. We're going to be fine.
Yeah. It's you've done the protecting. You've done everything that you could. You've proved to yourself. You proved to Steve. Like I remember, like the first Avengers movie where he's like, "You're not the kind of guy that would lay down his life for the line and all that kind of stuff. Would make the big call." And he did do that. And he's like, "Oh shit!" So he's just kind of proved Steve wrong, and to a degree, I'm thinking like what that did to Steve, and like how much of that decision that Tony made to sacrifice himself was to kind of help Steve make that decision. And was like, you know what, I'm going to do what Tony did. He had a daughter. He had a, he tried to be peaceful. He tried to live a happy life and everything like that. I owe it to him to do this now because he proved me wrong, and I've got to start seeing it differently too, right? Because he's always been like, oh, I got to live for other people in the world, but he's never lived for himself to the point that you brought up. So I think like that act for Tony helps Captain America actually be able to retire and put up the shield or pass on the shield, so to speak. So
that's kind of, if we are saying this movie's about the original six, that's kind of what I liked, and that's what helps me get through the first parts, because there's no doubt that like basically from the time that Thanos attacks the Avengers thing on, to a certain degree, is amazing all the way through. But I think all of that little stuff that's peppered through that speaks to all the arcs I was talking about makes the first part good for me, and doesn't make it feel like, oh, we're really working for.
So you mean like the first act of the movie before the 5-year jump, or after the 5-year jump?
Before the 5-year jump doesn't really seem that long to me at all.
It's not long at all. It was like a 15-20 minute kind of thing.
I don't even think it's that long.
Oh, I have no idea. I'm barely remembering it right now, but it was it was just a very interesting choice of decisions that they made. Which the funny thing is, we have talked about this movie so much and the details and like potential plot leaks and subplots and everything like that, to the point where when I realized a lot of what we talked about behind the mic and all that kind of stuff, when a lot of it was we were right. The fact that I called it is like, yeah, like Ant-Man's going to use the quantum realm to like do time travel stuff and all that kind of, it got to a point now I'm like, oh shit, did I ruin it for myself? Did we ruin it for ourselves? And I feel like I need to rewatch the movie multiple times again, which I will, to finally get those like little minute details that you have over me right now.
Well, what I would say is, I mean, it's up to the viewer, right? What do you value in watching a movie? Because to me, it's not like, oh wow, I'm surprised by every like single turn. This is what we talked about in terms of like Guardians of the Galaxy 2 or Deadpool 2. I'm more interested in like what you're doing with the characters and like what is the actual story, how well is it told. So to me, being like, oh, I can't believe that's how they're gonna do it, instead of what I like, that I don't care about that stuff. Like, does it make sense when it's happening? And that's kind of the next thing is the story is they kill the Thanos that we've known from these movies. And realize, well, that was for nothing because we haven't changed anything, which is what we both kind of talked about before.
Well, it's not for nothing. It's just that it's not going to result in what they wanted it to be. Right?
I mean,
they wanted to be like, oh, we'll.
But what I'm saying is, like, killing him there didn't change anything.
No, it didn't.
It actually made them feel worse. So,
yeah. Because they had to deal with that concrete absoluteness. Like, no, there's nothing can be done.
Yeah, like there's no more plausible deniability after you chop his head off. It's not like, well, maybe he's out there doing something. It's like, well,
or maybe we can interrogate him or get something out of it. It's like, nope, he's.
So that's what I mean. Like, he didn't change anything. Other than making them feel worse, because that's when they break up. After that, they're kind of off doing their own thing. Like, Cap is not a part of it. It's just Natasha desperately holding on to this, hoping that they can find something somewhere. But yeah, I think basically they do that and then realize we're fucked until the rat saves Scott from the quantum realm. Yeah, and then from that point on, it's time heist time, and then, as Tony says, you mess with time, it'll mess back. Yep. And I thought it was a really smart way of doing it is the fact that there's two nebulas on the same Wi-Fi, so to speak, and they're able to tap into that and be like, look at this nebula's memories, and that prompts the 2014 Thanos to come jump into the future, and it's another showdown. That's pretty much the bare bones of this movie. And
it's think a really long and epic Back to the Future 2, which is hilarious to me because they were like they spent so much they brought so much references to that movie where it's just like, no, it doesn't work like that, but then they essentially adopt the plot line, which I think is hilarious. But I mean, not to a T, right? But
so I guess that's funny. The heart of it, because I was talking to Jeremy Lalonde, who does Black Hole films on that show, and he was saying he doesn't think it works, the time travel stuff. And anytime I tried to defend it, I was like, I guess I don't know enough of how it actually works to give this a proper defense.
What's his standpoint? Like, from the theoretical science point, it doesn't work, or from a storytelling standpoint, it doesn't work?
Well, I mean, I guess he said theoretical, but there is no real science to time travel.
There's no.
So like that part is out the window. I don't think that's what he's trying to argue. I think he's saying that it should be such a simple and clear thing to explain, and I think they do a lot of work to say it's not this, but without ever pinning down what it is. Because I'm thinking the bare bones way I understand it is the plan is to go and take the stones because those are things they can easily put back into the timelines. Yes. And then not create separate timelines. They can just go back, and there's always going to be that one timeline because there's that scene with the Ancient One where she's like, you take a stone, you've now created a new timeline. Yeah. That might be good for your timeline that you go back to, but it's not great for us, or you don't know what'll happen. And so when Bruce is like, yeah, but we can put it back right to the time that we took it, that all makes sense to me.
Yep.
I guess where it gets awkward is they fuck that up almost immediately.
Yes.
And make changes in almost every timeline, which, other than the Mjolnir thing, I feel like they can't undo. Because at least Cap takes Mjolnir back with him and puts it back. But, like...
The ultimate challenge here
So the Loki stuff is fine, because that's just him going off to do his Disney Plus series. It was a smart way to not bring him back from the dead, but just be like, yeah, he's off doing his own thing.
Yep.
But yeah, I guess the thing he bumped up against that I can't really explain away is like, well, like, yeah, if it doesn't affect their timeline, what do they care? Why are they sneaking around? They could just take whatever they want and then leave, and then I guess just come back and put it back before they made the mistake. So the sneaking around doesn't really make any sense.
Well, it does when you consider the fact that they have very limited Pym particles, so they couldn't redo it over and over and over again, right? I mean,
no, that's what I'm saying. If they just took it, even if it causes a stir.
Yeah, but was there an element in which case they were like, okay, we have X amount of hours with X amount of Pym particles. Like,
they can do whatever they want. That's what the Hulk
so once
says.
they were there,
for them it's how much ever time they need, and then in real time it's like 5 seconds or something, about 10 seconds.
Oh, because the quantum run, like the time works very differently.
Even as we get to this point, there's no concrete answer to that.
Yeah, there's nothing. It's almost like, okay, I think the scapegoat of this plot hole, that of a debate of which a lot of sci-fi people are going to tear apart over the next few weeks, is the idea that, okay, it's not just straight time travel, it's time travel through the quantum realm. In the quantum realm, like Michelle Pfeiffer aged accordingly, but then Scott Lang was like, no, I felt like I was there for 5 minutes or something like that, and
5 hours,
or 5 hours and 5 years passed or something like that, and it was just like, wait, what? So there's something messy going on, and I like the kind of vortexy kind of thing they did when they were traveling through it. The visual is really, really good, because it kind of helped me visually understand what they were doing from a time hole perspective.
And that's why
here's where you can jump out of it, here's where you can jump into it.
I would caution you to think about it the same way it happened for Janet Van Dyne, because they're just using that as a conduit, where she got stuck there. And is... Robert Downey Tony says to Scott, you didn't time travel. Like, you can't use your experience as a thing because you accidentally got out. Like, that doesn't count for anything. So it had to be whatever he did, and we don't know that science, but we just know he figured out a way to do it so that you just zip through, and that you're not walking through, being like, oh, I guess we go over there. It's already doing it for you. You zip through and you come out where you need to come out, so that the aging and all that stuff doesn't really matter.
Interesting.
That's why I'm saying, and that's why I kind of agree with Jeremy, that it gets a little awkward when you try to like think too hard about it. Because you'll inevitably run into an issue. That's why I just kept it at, I understand it as, you can go back, because as when War Machine was like, why don't we just kill baby Thanos? And he's like, well, that doesn't make any sense.
I'm so glad that he brought that up, because everyone would have been like, yeah, why didn't you just do that if you had limited Pym particles? So you just killed baby Thanos.
I mean, even if you could do that, who's to say that someone else wouldn't think of doing that? I think getting the stones is more important than killing baby Thanos. I think making sure you have all the stones so that no one else gets them is more important than killing off the one person you know was going to do it, because someone else could do it.
Yes, but if they put them back, which they do.
But they do that, killed the Thanos guy, and then put him back. So I guess they feel like we've killed all of his followers.
Yeah, well, based on what they were saying with the timelines and all that kind of stuff, that it's just like, no, they died in this timeline, and then we reversed everything without him. The whole travel thing is just like, that got me really, really murky. I was just like, damn it. I can't follow what's going on right now.
The Thanos stuff makes sense to me, because he left that 2014 timeline.
Yes.
He jumped into their timeline. He jumped
forward,
So then you kill him there.
Yep.
Everything that happened in the past happened, but you've killed him there, so it's not like it's not like he can go back and do anything. What's already happened has already happened. But that doesn't mean that it's crystal clear to me how it works or if it works. like as a storyteller. I think I was willing to go with it.
Yeah. Well, we have to go with it because there's nothing we can do to change it or anything like that.
Well, no, you could just be like, that doesn't make sense to me and I don't like it.
That's fair. That's fair. I was much more distracted by the whole like, oh, here's how these stories or these arcs end, and here's throwback and callbacks to these lines and this
everything to
dialogue
do
and
with
everything like that.
New York 2012 was amazing to me.
It
I
was
loved
so
it.
good.
It was kind of a bummer to go anywhere else.
I loved,
even though it gave Thor a nice thing. I was kind of, and like, there's nice moments in every other thing they do, but New York, like from beginning to end, I was like, this is amazing.
Yeah,
I wish
the
the
New
movie
York
was
stuff
a lot more
really,
of this.
really good. The Thor stuff for me could have been cut shorter because I'm just like, okay, we get it. That needed to happen for him, for his character, but let's be perfectly honest here. The whole series up until now, like Rene Russo gets like the most lines of dialogue in this movie, in every combined from all the other movies.
She's got a lot in Dark World, but
she does, but like not
this is
nearly.
the most you've ever, like, other than in Dark World. I understood it that she was important to Loki.
Yes,
but again, that's not really anything to do with
it's
what she's doing,
with
other than
Thor,
I liked
right?
her fight scene.
Exactly,
but like.
Because
in this one, you actually get to hear from her and like understand her
which
more
is
as a character.
So good to see, because I mean, like, that was one of those things where I'm just like, okay, they're trying to tie off like Thor's thing, and because of the whole Natalie Portman thing through it, I think they had a character arc for that kind of thing originally, and then it was like, oh yeah, Natalie Portman's not playing ball right now, which made
she's in it.
Well, I know she's in it,
she's
but
credited.
what I meant, like, is like during the whole like during Thor Dark World, she was being such a pain in the ass, we're just going to write her out or something like that. It's going to make her happy, and I think that must have thrown off some sort of big arc that they had, because like his arc is not done.
I don't think so, because
like,
she
or
just
it's found a new way to begin.
I think it's more important that he speaks to his mom, because that's I don't see how anything happening with Jane would really fix that. Like,
no, it
he
wouldn't
needs
have
to know.
anything.
He needs to talk to someone who knows him, like, right? Like,
Yes.
So yes, Jane dated him, but she was like infatuated with him. That wasn't like
that wasn't like a
him.
true relationship.
Yeah, that's his mom. Like, she does know him.
Yeah, because
I think it makes more sense. Like, if it is Jane, then you have to get into the whole. No, I'm a Thor from the future. I'm not the Thor who brought you here.
Yeah.
All that stuff. Like, then it does get longer.
Mm-hmm.
I think having the mom, and she already knows. Oh, you're not my Thor. I get it. You're from the future. We can move on.
Yeah.
That's why I don't think it would have made sense, even if they were planning to do something with that. I don't think they would, because they basically had decided before Ragnarok that she wouldn't be in things anymore. So I think that would have never been a plan.
Definitely a very
That's just a
weird
nice
thing.
That's just a nice thing that she probably, because she was at the premiere as well.
Yeah, she was.
So it's like,
So
that
they
was
must
probably,
be on good terms now.
Yeah.
Or like,
she said she would come back if they ever really needed her. It looks like she did, just to not say anything.
good
But
for
like,
her. Yeah.
but like, yeah, I don't think it would make sense to plan to have her complete an arc for him. I think
Probably
this is
not.
this again another two for, like, it's someone who knows him.
Yeah.
There was obviously a big thing for parents and having moments again with your parents in this
Yes.
movie. And we've already seen a lot of Odin. But he's dead. Never mind.
Yeah,
I know
he's-
you're
he
going
dead.
back in time, but like,
Yeah.
we've completed the Odin arc of
Yeah,
Odin.
there
and Thor.
was no need to bring him back.
This was a way of
lot
not
better, for
making it feel like a retread. This was like, we can talk to his mom now. I think that makes the most sense.
Yes.
So yeah, I really liked that stuff. But the it was like, there was so fun watching them go back to New York 2012.
Yes.
You get the Ancient One conversation with Bruce.
You
or
get the whole discussion about like the people go like, well, where was the Ancient One, the Sorcerer Supreme, during the Battle of New York? It's like, no, you saw they
But
were defending.
We already talked about that when we talked about Doctor Strange. That
Yeah.
they put up their little things, and so you don't see what they're doing.
Yeah.
And that's why that movie works for me,
No,
and I liked it.
But
That
it also
was-
like further drives home that
yeah, that
fact.
they're
It's just like,
constantly
no,
around.
like,
They're just doing their own thing,
like,
and you don't
guys,
need to see them.
We retcon this. You can't critique this anymore. Like, to me, there's like a lot of moments like that I'm like, oh, okay, I see what you did there. It's clever, but was it a lot of like, no, shut up, fan people, just like, we're gonna disarm you right away or something like that? Or
I don't
disarm
know.
you
I don't really
fast.
think that's what was happening in this particular situation. I think Doctor Strange already like
Well, they
solidified
explained
that for me.
yeah, they clarified.
Yeah,
it.
I don't. I think this was just, we need
just
him to talk
drove
to
it
the Ancient
home a
One.
little
He
bit better,
he
yeah.
wants to go there anyway. That's
Yeah.
part of it, and she can be there to be like, "Hey, I'm back." Like, we're using Tilda Swinton again, but also like obviously Doctor Strange isn't here because this is too early in the timeline.
Yeah,
and you get to talk to someone who knows more.
It was a really good way of like re-explaining the timeline stuff, but even then it's still murky at best. Like we're still hashing. You've seen it 3 times and it's still murky.
Yeah, it's. I mean, I don't have anything else. We don't. I'm not saying like let's never bring it up again. I just don't have anything more to add because I just have come down on. Yeah, it's not. It's not something I have been able to properly crystallize.
Yeah, that's fair.
So yeah, that happens. Then Cap versus Cap happens, which is great. Like the whole, I could do this all day. I know
that was really funny. That like throwback to like he's just mocking us. And it's like, yeah, I know.
And then like watching the Hydra agents come in, and like that was really cool.
That
and,
throwback,
and I really liked that it was like Ant-Man being like, "Who the hell are these people?" Because like I think even some people in the audience were like, "Oh shit!" Like if you don't have Ant-Man and Tony there to be like, well, no, it's fine. Like this is how it played out. You never got to see this, but like this is how it played out because we still thought they were S.H.I.E.L.D. We didn't realize they were Hydra.
Right.
And I just like how he's like, they look like the bad guys.
Yeah.
That was all good.
I love that. It's like, how did you not know? These guys look like the bad guys.
And then
really funny.
Even though it's Winter Soldier, they tease that they're gonna do the elevator thing again, but then they bring in that amazing thing of Hail Hydra.
That was the smartest thing.
I was like,
in the
this
world.
is the only way I want to see this version of Captain America.
That was the best. It was
Hail
so
Hydra.
good because it was like him saying Hail Hydra. Like,
that was so smart.
It was so smart for him to do that.
I really like. I mean, I really like Iron Man, but I really like Captain America in these movies, and I was just like, man, he killed it in this movie.
He did kill it. He did kill it because
like so many great moments.
There was a big point in that whole scene where I'm like, okay, Cap's just gonna go AWOL on these guys, and then like for him to go like, no, your orders are wrong. Trust me, my orders are better. Hail Hydra. And I was just like, that was such a better moment to me because like I never thought of him as an intellectual character until that moment. And he's like really thought that out.
This is what I mean. Like, there's small details of like, look, like he has been through a lot. Like,
for sure.
There's no, they don't even really play it up other than in the Avengers. Like the whole man out of time. Like, he's not with the times. Like it's kind of like, no, he's seen enough now, and he's going back to that situation. He knows, like the fact that he knows to tell himself, "Oh, Bucky's still alive." The fact that he knows to say, "Hail Hydra." It's like, he's not an idiot. He's not just brute force. He is picking stuff up along the way, and in fact, he's in the best position to do that because he's already had to like catch up on cultural things all this time. So he might as well pick up on other cues to use throughout. I love that. I'm less so them going back to the 70s, but I do like that Tony and Howard get to have a talk, and Tony does a lot of hugging in this movie, that he gets to like there's just small moments where he is like so proud to tell his dad that he has a daughter. Yep. Like he's like, I got a daughter, and you're like, that's just really nice because like he lost the moment to like talk to his dad with any kind of like that was one of the things, because right? Winter Soldier killed his parents.
Yeah, because he was always
when he was
like,
being a shitty teenager
from me, and like all that kind of stuff. So I never got to say goodbye, and that's a sad feeling. That hit home for me. Like when he got that moment, I was like fucking bawling. I was just going like, oh my god, this is the saddest thing in the world. I was like if I were to watch that scene again, I'm pretty sure I would still cry, but I would still be I would be like, maybe this part was a little bit too long. Like because it just comes at such a weird place in the
Here's
movie.
What I'd say
it
I would cut.
Lull the movie a little bit.
Here's what I would cut, and it's mostly just Hawkeye stuff. I would cut the Ronin scene because I don't think it means anything other than a cool action scene.
Well, it does kind of show how far he doesn't even care.
So here's what I would say.
Like at that point you would be like, okay, what are you looking for? What are you trying to do? Like we theorized he was looking for a way to find Thanos or whatever. He's literally just killing people. So to me, I'm just like, no, that scene is so much more important because it's like, okay, to pull back from Natasha and him to be like, no, Natasha's the only one that can do it. That was awesome to me. So I think like that scene
I would still cut it because you already have this scene, and I know I'm against telling not showing, but I do think there is a showing moment in this scene, so bear with me. You already have the scene where War Machine tells Natasha, we found another cartel. They didn't even get their guns off.
Right.
And she's like, oh, it's probably a rival gang. He's like, no, it's obviously Barton. And I think that tells you how far gone he is without like eating up time with the action scene. So you already know that. But more importantly, you're seeing what effect that's having on Natasha. That's a great scene for her, and you see
I do love that scene.
all of it. Like she's just so upset that like, yeah, like I'm trying to run this. I'm trying to put on a brave face for these people, but like this is fucking me up, and I need him to like
she
get
kind
back
of
to where.
adopts like the Captain America kind of
Like
thing,
even in
the
Ultron, she's like basically his second in that. Like she's always been
she's always
in a
been.
leadership position.
Yeah, but
It's
like
just,
like she's kind of using his trope of like, no, give me another mission, keep me fighting, don't let me ever stop to think about this.
Well, as I said, I think that's more a function of she needs this because this is what's going to clear out her ledger. It's less about I don't want to think about what's going on. It's more like all I have to do is to think about this because this is what's going to make things right.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, I think that scene does it because his Ronin stuff never plays into it again. And as I said, by the time he's on Vormir, he is Clint's part. He's not. It's
Clint's
just
again.
that one scene.
Yeah.
And and it doesn't explain how he got the sword. It's just
I
everyone
see.
knows. It's Ronin, so he has a
I
sword.
totally see what you're saying.
I would cut that. I also would cut the test run when he goes back in time to like prove that it works. I just feel like it was like I thought they were going somewhere with that, but it was just like it works. But we spent a lot of time with it.
They did spend a lot of time with that. Because the thing is, like, this movie is so long.
It didn't feel long to me. Don't get me
It
wrong.
felt so long to me. It really did. It felt so long. I was just like dying in the theater. I'm like, God damn, I don't think I want to do this again, but I know I have to. But like, it was way too long for me, and I'm like, and I know nothing about editing, but I'm like, what would I cut out? And you've definitely given this a little bit more thought than I have. But like,
you wanted to cut down that 70s moment.
I mean, I can understand why people would want to cut that down because it comes at a weird point in the movie where it does lull things when the action's starting to rev up, or it just distracts from where the movie's really, really going there. But to me, I'm like,
what's a distraction about it? You're dealing with everyone's getting these kind of parental closure things, right?
It's the distraction from like everything else is getting revved up, and then it's just like, oh, this is a lull moment before it gets revved up. It's a little bit of a speed bump, if you will.
I disagree because what you're also setting up is you're giving Tony a bunch of closure so that that decision at the end makes more sense. He already says, I can't lose Morgan. Like what I have here, I can't lose. There's that element. There's the element of I got to say goodbye to my dad. Yep. There's just a lot going on in that scene that I don't think that. I think you need to watch it again.
I definitely need to watch it again.
You might want to cut stuff with like Shirley from Community, maybe like.
Yeah, I mean, but that was just the Russos being like, I'm gonna put everyone in Community except for Britta in this,
and Donald Glover, and Joel McHale.
No, Donald Glover was in that. Joel McHale was also in MCU.
Where was he in MCU?
He was in one of the early cuts. He was a banker or something like that.
Oh, he's in Spider-Man. That's not part of MCU. That's Sam Raimi.
Is that from the Sam Raimi Spider-Man? No.
Yeah, Joel McHale is the banker. That's like you don't get a free toaster just for opening up this level.
Right, that's what
she
it is.
kicks him under the table. Like, oh, did you kick me? And she thought she was kicking.
Right, that's what.
Thing.
Okay.
Yeah, no, he's not part of the MCU, and Donald Glover wasn't really part of a Russo brothers thing.
No, he was, but he was in.
It's a Sony movie
MCU,
that MCU gets to consult on.
Yes,
but yeah. Anyway, and I don't think Alison Brie is in these.
No, well, that's what I mean. Like everyone got like.
So there was just three of them,
except for Alison Brie, except for Britta.
Which I think that's hilarious. Gillian Jacobs.
No wait, Alison Brie. No, yeah.
There's only three people from Community.
The red eye is killing me right now. It's killing me.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't. I think maybe you cut that kind of stuff, maybe. But again, this is coming from someone who doesn't find the movie long. I think it flies by. There's certain scenes that you're like, wow, they're really letting this breathe.
Yeah.
But they kind of earned it. Like it's like
no, they definitely earned it. That's the thing. Like the movie itself feels long, but when you consider where it's at in the whole arc of the saga, you're like, no, it has to spend that time doing it. But like individually, the movie itself is very, very long.
Yeah, I mean
It's a difficult position to be in for this movie. It really is, because you got to deal with the fallout of Infinity War. You have to, like, you can't just be like, okay, we're good to go now and all that kind of stuff. They did a good job showing, like, no, we got a new person in here. We're ready to go. We're revved up. Let's go finish this off. And they did, and it didn't amount to anything. And now they have to like beat them up again, which like I really loved, but it's just like, damn, this movie is long, and I don't know what to do about that.
That's right. You're the first person I've heard give that criticism.
I've
talked to a lot of people about it.
It was long for me. It was really, really long.
I didn't find that.
Like, and granted too, like the good thing about, so you know how like when you watch a third, like the Return of the King from Lord of the Rings, you're just like, yeah, they could have cut like at least 2 of these endings. They had like 2 or 3 different endings in this movie. Mm-hmm. There's nothing as concrete you can cut from this, or that I can think of.
I would say, and I don't think it makes it too long. I just think it makes it clumsy. That's what I was saying. Anything after the funeral, no matter how important it is to closing off things, just feels clumsy.
Yeah, it does feel clumsy because you're not giving you're not giving the characters closure at all. If you after the Tony Stark funeral, I'm assuming.
Yeah,
right?
I think. I don't have an answer for it. I just felt like what I would take points off for would be like that the ending feels clunky, because it's like, all right, Tony's funeral, but then we also have to do Thor, but then we also have to do Captain America, and the Captain America thing is even longer than the Thor thing.
Yep.
Maybe it's not actually. Maybe I'm thinking about it the wrong way, because he still, even after he does his goodbye to Valkyrie, he still does the Guardians thing.
Yeah, but that was more of that was one of the few hopeful things that I got out of the ending. You know, like a lot of people are like, "Oh, this is capped off. This is capped off," and then Thor was like, "Nope, there's a new beginning," and I'm excited to see where this goes with the as Guardians of the Galaxy, as he calls it.
Yeah, and then the Captain America stuff, which maybe is even shorter, but just like means a lot.
It meant so much
for a couple of characters. We'll get to that. So yeah, I think. So we've done the time travel thing, and me liking the New York stuff a lot.
Yep.
There might be something to take away from the 70s scene, but I
Are
think
you talking
it's
about,
really
like, the
important.
70s Michael Douglas scene, or like
Well,
the
that's
70s?
the thing scene you're saying they should cut
Yeah.
down. That's the one where he meets his dad.
Right. Where
that
they get
sequence.
extra pin particles.
Yeah.
Yep.
Because they need to find a place to get the Tesseract and the Pym particles at the same time.
Yep.
Again, it kind of warrants being as long, because they need 2 things. It's not just getting the Tesseract.
Oh, absolutely. Like, and that's this is where I suffer from only having seen this once, but I mean, it is what it is. I just still think it's too long. I mean, like, I'll let you know the second time around when I'm starting to notice different things or whatever, but I still think it's way too long. I wanted at least like 15, 20 minutes cut out of it. It was just killing me.
just seems like an arbitrary number. What do you mean by 15, 20 minutes?
Like, it would have made it such a big difference. Like, I was just like, oh, this is dragging. Like, it really was dragging. And like,
I don't know. I feel like when people say this movie could have lost 20 minutes, that means nothing to me. It seems like you should be able to tell me this scene needs to go or this scene. I get that you haven't seen it a bit, but like, it's weird to just be like, movies should be this long. Like, they're as long as they need to be, right?
Yeah, I'm not saying that arbitrarily it needs to be 2 hours and 30 minutes. Otherwise, I'm not doing a studio type thing or like like a theater type thing. I'm just saying, like, arbitrarily, if there was more time cut off this movie, I would have enjoyed it a little bit more, I think, because it dragged on so long for me. And I don't know if that was just because I had a long day or something like that, but it was really, really long for me. It really was. It killed me a little bit.
Maybe as we talk, you'll see parts where you think they should have cut, because for me, it doesn't seem like what would be cut.
No.
Meaning the 15, 20 minutes doesn't make sense.
No, because I wish I had more concrete things to be like, I wish they cut this, and this. This is nothing for me, but I couldn't think of anything, which is what's weird to me. Yeah. Like, usually when I can't think of a scene to cut, the movie's the exact right length. But for me to complain about the length of the movie but still not have that criticism, like, it's kind of faulty on my part. And I think a lot of this right now, what I'm saying is I'm working through this live. I'm just thinking out loud.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, no, it just that's really what it was. But
So
yeah,
let's get into the Thanos battle because that was great.
the final Thanos battle where everything goes crazy.
So they did a lot with
so
just
much.
the original 3 guys, which I thought was pretty good.
Yeah.
Like I was like, wow, they're making this happen, and the fact that Cap finally gets to use Mjolnir.
I knew you were so happy when that happened. Like I was happy when that happened, but I'm like, I'm sure you were so.
No,
much
I
more
only
happy.
care about him dancing. The
Really?
him getting to dance with Peggy. I like it looks good, but it doesn't matter to me what weapon he's using, because I'm more invested in him and what makes him human.
Fair enough.
I don't the fighting stuff. I'm kind of like, yeah, okay, cool.
Yeah.
It's a cool look, but even more than that to me is awesome. But what is awesome more than him hitting Thanos with Mjolnir, or even grabbing it that first time, was hearing Sam be like, "Hey, it's me, Sam.
Yeah.
Cap on your left," and like just that callback.
The
But like,
on your left callback was great.
great.
Yep.
Or the fact that like Black Panther's the first one out the gate
Yep.
with Shuri and Okoye.
Yep.
They really lied about Okoye being a part of. I do not know why she was on the poster.
I hated it. I hated what they did with.
But I mean,
like,
I don't hate. I was just
okay.
like, oh, that was weird that they put her on the poster. That would have been just nice to be like, oh, she's in this.
Yeah, I hate how they handled that, because it was just like, I get why they did the Captain Marvel thing the way they did, and the Russos were really just like, we do not know what to do with this character.
Yeah,
And
we'll get
I
into
think
the Captain Marvel stuff.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't seem like they know what to do with her.
No.
But like, the return, like the actual function of, or the visuals of everyone returning was really cool. I really
yeah, with
liked it.
whatever you
With
the
Doctor
circle
Strange's
portal,
thing, yeah.
I don't know what to call that thing, but like
Yeah.
that teleported, like he teleported like a freaking army.
Yeah.
to this
I love
place,
that
and
he
I
was like, is that
what?
everybody? And Wong's just like, you want more?
Yeah, Wong has
Which
got
leads
some
me
great,
to-
great lines in this.
I mean, Vision's dead. I was actually surprised they commit to that he's just gone.
Yeah, I was actually.
I thought they were
going
going to
to
find some convoluted way to bring him back, but still no Lady Sif. I find that very interesting.
Yeah,
Because even if the argument is she was snapped away, she would be back.
She would be
from
back.
from the
yeah, and because she wasn't officially killed off in Ragnarok.
She wasn't in it.
She wasn't in it at
Yeah.
all. It was just like, so yeah, the latest If thing is just like, oh, there's a loose end that you need to tie up at some point. But even then,
I don't
I'm just
even know
like,
if that's getting. I just want to know what
I
happened to her
care.
because that was weird. Because I really liked her and I really liked.
did like her too. Yeah,
So that was just weird that like she just doesn't show up in this.
yeah.
Like I was already
Because, I mean,
weird
like,
that she didn't show up
everyone
in Thor
else
Ragnarok.
shows up in this, like everyone. Which I'm like,
Like
Robert
they brought
Redford?
back, they brought back Alexander Pierce, but they couldn't
Yeah.
get Lady Sif.
They brought back Thunderbolt Ross. They brought back everyone. I'm just like, holy crap! This was awesome that they did that.
Yeah, I really like that.
I really like that the fact that they did that. But then I never even thought about Lady Sif at all.
So it looks like Doctor Strange was right to ask, "Is this everyone?"
Yeah.
No, I mean, yeah, everyone coming back, that was great. I really liked the way they did that. Obviously, I like that he got to say Avengers Assemble. That was nice.
Awesome. I really was disappointed in the audience reaction to that. They didn't go crazy as I hoped they would have. I was like, yeah, and I was like, damn, I feel like a loser now because nobody else did that.
Yeah, no,
It sucked.
The second audience I saw it with was the best audience.
Yeah.
Because that first audience was just dead.
Yeah.
They did not react to anything. Like I was like, oh, like people might cheer for Captain Marvel. Nope, nothing. Oh, people might cheer for people coming back. Nothing.
My audience, they just really enjoyed the jokes. Like
Yeah,
the jokes
well,
landed really, really well.
Every audience I saw it with laughed.
Yep.
For some reason, the second audience laughed when they showed the proof that Tony Stark has a heart going out into the water. I was like, what could possibly be funny about that?
Yeah.
That's not what.
Yeah.
But anyway, they laughed at everything else too. So
I think one of the lines that. Two lines that got the most laughs from me, my audiences, were the Rocket Raccoon line where he talks to Captain Marvel, is like, "What are you gonna do? Cut your hair again?"
Yeah.
And then the other line where Captain America's like, "Yeah, that is America's ass." Like that was so funny. That was hilarious.
I didn't even hear it the first time what
That's
he
really
said, but yeah, That was an interesting run they went on. He swore a lot more in this movie.
He did.
You got to be shitting me. That was nice.
He's like,
Let's
go
go
get this son of a bitch. But he also changed a lot too between like Infinity War here, because like Infinity War is like, we don't trade lives, and then Vision was like, hey, you did it in World War II, and I don't think the Vision stuff got to him then, but it's just like at the point where it's like, oh, okay, we lost everything, maybe we should trade some lives or something like that. But like this time around, that was not adhered to at all, because it was all about trading lives and trading places and all that kind of stuff. Like with Tony and Black Widow, Scarlett Johansson, they were all just like, nope, we're going to trade for the greater good kind of thing, because that's what we need to do. It was really nice to see that.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, the only one that is technically trading a life would be the Black Widow one, because
Black Widow. Well, I mean, Tony was not trading; it was sacrificing. But
which is something that Captain America always does.
Yes,
sacrifices himself.
Yeah,
I don't think Captain America could do that. I think the only time that would matter would be if Captain America was on Vormir. Then that's why he's not there.
Yeah.
But like, then it would be like, no, I'm not going to trade a life for this.
Yeah.
We're going to find a different way, which. Obviously, they didn't write it that way for a good reason. But I don't know how much he's changed on. We don't trade lives. I think he thinks he's a soldier. The point was that Iron Man never thought he was a soldier, and he even pushes back when in Avengers when he's like, "No, I'm not a soldier."
He's like, he's like, "Well, take that away, where are you?" And he goes on that.
And
rant.
I think again, even when he meets his dad, that whole thing of like his dad being like, I hope I have a girl, then she won't be anything like me. And he's like, what's wrong with that? And he's like, well, let's just say the greater good never really trumped my self-interest, anything like that. And I think hearing all that stuff is important for the audience and also
for Tony. Like, even
hearing Tony say, yeah, I thought my dad was shit, but now I'm looking back on it, all I think about is the good times.
Yeah. Because that scene was really, really good to me, because it was just like, yeah, we always kind of like, as kids, we're kind of like, what, this is very personal for me. Like the idea is like, why can't my dad do this? Like, oh this guy's dad did this guy. You know, you always do that point of comparison. It's like, oh like when you're a really, really young kid, like my dad can beat up your dad. You know, as trivial as that kind of shit is, like there's a lot, because he had that unresolved, wasn't able to say goodbye to his dad. Yeah. That carried on to his adult life, and then now he finally was like, you know what, I'm a dad now, and he was able to help his dad when he was like, where he's going with and all the kind of stuff. It's like I kind of understand why he was the way he is, and that empathy moment was really, really good for me. I really enjoyed that.
So yeah, they don't do much with the return people other than Sam. Let's talk about the Gamora and Nebula stuff, because that's important.
Yeah.
As I said, ever since Guardians 2, I really like Nebula. I think that whole idea that she's like, all I ever wanted was a sister.
Yeah.
They've really like leaned into that and made good on that.
Yeah.
And that's essentially what helps her out in this, is that since she swapped out for the other Nebula, she has that moment with Gamora where she can just be like, we finally become sisters. And Gamora can be like, you've never vocalized that before. Okay. Yeah. Well, I'm on board, because we already know the Gamora, what the potential Gamora has, and so I think the idea that she gets to hear it from her sister instead of just being like, well, this clearly is the way she wants to interact. That really tracked for me, and I really liked how they pieced all that together. And I even like that she's not around at the end. Like, it's not like, oh, now the Guardians are back. It's like she's gone. And now I'm assuming Guardians 3 will be them looking for her.
That's what I assume based on the last kind of Quill thing. But yeah, it's I'm just really looking forward to all the snippet jokes. I had this one image of what would happen in one of the scenes if Taika Waititi were to do it. I think he would definitely put in a scene where like Thor and Star-Lord are like working out and trying to get like buff again or something like that, because they like made fun of him in like Infinity War. Like, you're
getting
on
fat,
a little bit of weight. It's like, I'm gonna get a Bowflex. Like, if they were like workout buddies, I think that would be hilarious to visually, because then that's even more the whole Star-Lord. It's like, oh, he's not that good looking kind of thing, and it's just like seeing Thor work out next to Quill would be hilarious to me, because he'd be like lifting mountains or whatever, and then like Quill would be like, "Look at a Bowflex, guys. This is great."
Yeah, we really got away from Gamora and
We
Nebula.
we really did. We really did. Sorry.
So yeah, I even liked that it wasn't really like a hesitation on her part to just shoot herself when it looked like she was going to kill Gamora. I was like, oh, are we going to have to do this trope of like, oh, what do I do? Like, it's just like, no, fuck you.
Yeah.
Good. Let's go. Let's keep this moving.
Because, like, in many ways, the thing I liked about this movie was that it was so much of a mirror of Infinity War in, like, many, many ways. So there's, like, the whole idea in Infinity War where he's like, yeah, we don't trade lives, we're trading lives here. The idea that Quill had difficulty shooting Gamora, but then Nebula just did it right away kind of deal. Like, there's a lot of things that are just like, no, this is, like, the exact opposite movie in very, very different ways, and that was really interesting for me to see.
Yeah. So the one question I heard was if we think she got snapped, because my assumption is, and I don't know how the snaps work other than you just make a wish. Yeah, Gamora, because if the wish is just kill Thanos and his army, she's technically not part of his army by the time the snap happens. She's clearly defected and wouldn't be associated with them.
Well, yes. I think that's what they were alluding to, yeah.
If you have to like actually do like a list of people to kill, then I don't know if Tony would know that she wasn't on their side at that point.
Yeah, but even at that point, it's oh god, it's so hard to distinguish what was going on.
Yeah,
because I need to rewatch that final, because that final 40 minutes is so intense. It's just like the thing that blew my mind in that final act was that each movie, each franchise, each character had a way of shooting a fight scene, you know,
right?
And then they all had different fighting styles and all that kind of stuff. And that final scene where all of them interacted, they all got a moment where they like got to explore like that visual from their own kind of franchise and then adopt it into a bigger fight scene. And that's what blew me away from that final fight scene. That really did. Aside from the whole like sheer volume and mass of people and all that kind of stuff, and to see like his children again, the what was it, the Ebony Maw, like Proxima Midnight.
You know, I don't know their names.
Corvus Glaive. See,
yeah.
I forget what their names were, but I really enjoyed the character design of those guys. To see them at the final fight just show up, I'm like, yes, cool. Don't make the whole movie about them, but this was great.
Yeah.
I liked it.
I liked the A-Force moment. That was nice, where all the women come together.
That was really cool for me.
Kind of made up for killing the only female Avenger at the time.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, good, nice. And like, they don't hammer you over the head with it, but it's quite clear what's happening.
Yeah, of course.
And it was just a really cool visual to be like, even if they are just showing off, like, you might be mad about Black Widow, but look at everyone we have to work with right now.
Yes.
Yeah, I really like that. I was a big fan of that.
Yep.
I guess this leads us now to Captain Marvel and how she was used in the movie.
Or sidelined or whatever it was. I mean, but the Russo brothers create a really good argument, and I think they cleverly wrote her out of this in the sense where it's like, yeah, you might not hear from me for a while. There's a lot of stuff that I gotta do, and just like, I'm doing Captain Marvel things. Cool, that makes sense. Like that made a lot of sense until the final showdown where she showed up, like just destroyed the whole thing. I'm like, oh, that's kind of what I don't like about how powerful she is.
Well, she didn't save the day.
She didn't save the day. She just like made a huge entrance, and you're like, oh.
Yeah, so did Thor in Infinity War.
That's the point I was trying to make. It's just like, oh, God, I'm so sleep deprived right now. The fact that like anyone that would be like mocking the fact that it's like, oh well, she just showed up and did this, and I'm like, Thor did that. Yeah. Like he does that a lot. So I'm just like, why aren't you mad with that happening? But arguably Thor is overpowered. It's just that he's got more.
This is
story
what I talked
to tell,
about.
For sure.
That's what I talked about in Captain Marvel.
Yep.
The Captain Marvel episode is the same. Like they're both overpowered. Technically, it's just I don't even know what it's just. But that's what I said. I feared about continuing with her solo movies is that they need to find
There's no
interesting
challenge.
ways.
Yeah,
they need to
no
find
real
interesting ways
challenge
for her to do things. And I guess if she's constantly, I heard on what's it called, Screen Junkies Universe, they were saying if her trajectory is taking on too much, like if she needs to, like if she feels like it's only her and she has to defend galaxies as opposed to just one planet, maybe it becomes too much for her. But I don't know how you do that in one movie. That seems like a arc that happens over a couple of things.
What's the solution to that? I get why that would be a story arc to consider for her, but like
this is what I'm saying. I don't know how you do that in just one movie. It seems like you would have to have it be like a Captain America thing of like basically she only gets over that on the last movie and then you're done with her.
Yeah.
So yeah,
that's
I
gonna be a
don't
very
really know
interesting
how they're
franchise
going to
to see
use
how
it,
that's-
but it didn't really feel like Russo's knew how to either. So they were just like, she's gone doing Captain Marvel
they've
stuff. Don't worry about it.
Openly admitted that they were just like, yeah, it's hard. Like they've talked about how hard it is to write her character into this thing because of how powerful she is and all that kind of stuff, and the fact that there's not as much storyline based like with what Thor had. He had like he had a trilogy where you can continue that arc, right? For Captain Marvel, she just started an arc. How much time do you really want to devote to that? And that was the greatest thing about the fact that the original Avengers were there, because like it really allows them to close out their arc that they weren't snapped. And it, like the idea that they weren't snapped now makes so much more sense when you see Endgame. It's kind of great. And the one scene that got me to tear up, like, that hug between
Peter and
Tony.
That was really good.
The greatest thing, because
That was also a mini arc, because if you remember in Civil War, he was like, "Don't touch me. I want to sit on the bed, but I don't want to touch you." And then in Homecoming, he went for the door.
Yeah.
Like, this isn't a hug. I just need to open the door. And then he just volunteers the hug.
But also,
which was nice.
Also in like Homecoming too, where he's like, "Yeah, I'm trying to do something a little bit different. I'm trying to recognize what my dad didn't do. I'm just trying to break the circle of shame, guilt, or whatever." It was really nice to see him have that moment where he's just like just genuinely hugs him.
Yeah,
it was really, really great.
I also really liked him as a dad to Morgan. I thought those were some really touching scenes.
Yeah, because like there was a lot of build up.
I love when
that.
he says "I love you 3000" at the end of his message. I was like, holy shit, that's nice.
That was really, really nice. I really enjoyed the idea that throughout this you see him mature in many, many ways, and like the idea of him being able to take on a fathership role is one of those ways he's mature, and it's really, really nice.
I also really like, just to wrap up the Tony Stark stuff again, the fact that Jon Favreau obviously started this universe and kind of started it, like when you hear like the making of this movie, kind of started it on that whole cheeseburger run of like when he's like, "I need a cheeseburger, an American cheeseburger," and he's like at the press conference eating a cheeseburger. That wasn't in the script. That was like literally they had to reset, they had to stop reset so that they could film it the way Robert Downey Jr. wanted them, because he's like, they should be sitting down and I'll just like talk or I don't remember if he sat down. Either way, they had it set up to light a certain way, and he was like, no, we're gonna do it this way. And so the fact that when his daughter's like, "I want a cheeseburger," and he's like, "Your dad loved cheeseburgers. I want to get you as many cheeseburgers as you want."
That was I
thought that was really nice that he had that moment. It's meta, obviously, because Happy obviously would know that, but it was kind of nice that it was like Jon Favreau in particular talking about cheeseburgers. There. The only thing that I thought was weird, and I understand that to a certain degree they want it to feel like War Machine is his own character now, but like he has nothing with Tony. He didn't even say anything. I get that it's just a quiet thing, and he's been in the field. He knows what's happening. He doesn't need to be like, "Oh, what are you?" He's just kind of like, "All right, this is it. I get it." But it's just like they don't talk to each other in this movie, and it's really weird. Like War Machine talks at Tony, and he kind of talks over War Machine, but it's like, it just would have been nice to see them actually be friends.
The one thing that was super weird for me was, and we talked about this a lot, who was going to take over the Captain America shield and the helm after Steve Rogers dies or retires or whatever was going to happen. And the idea that Bucky, like his best friend, was like, no, you go talk to him, kind of deal. That was really weird for me. That was
we're done with the Iron Man stuff.
Well, I mean, no, it's just I just can't keep a train of thought right now.
Okay. So I mean, I'll just those were my thoughts on the Iron Man stuff. We can move on to the Captain America stuff. I think, as we've always talked about, that it wouldn't make sense for Bucky to be the person who takes over.
Right, but
he's still a criminal to everyone else.
I understand that.
And
that's not what I'm getting at. What I'm getting at is it was weird that when they were reunited after and Bucky was just like, no, you go talk to him. Like,
I read that as he already knew what the plan was. He wasn't expecting to see him on the platform. He looked over there and he's like, Sam, go talk to him, and he already knew you're getting the shield. I think that was part of it.
Interesting. I just, from the perspective of like, you might want to say bye to your friend there, bud.
He did say bye to him, but I remember. Yeah, he was like, well, I mean, he said goodbye before he went and did the time travel stuff.
I see.
But like, why would you say goodbye there? He's already just sitting there. Like, there's no need to say goodbye. You could just go home with him.
Is that what happens? Or
he's just sitting there on a bench.
I guess. Oh yeah, because I'm just.
There's no need to say goodbye.
Like, no, that's true. Because
we'll just leave you here, old man. Bye.
I'm thinking he dies for some reason, and I know that's not the case because it ends with him in that home and like him having to dance with Peggy.
Well, I mean, in the past, yes.
Yes, in the past, yes.
But old man Cap comes back.
Yes,
and so that's what I'm saying. Like, you probably just need to see it again. But the mechanics of the scene are that it's really just Sam and Hulk who are like, "Ooh, where did he go? He should be here." They're working on it.
Yeah.
Bucky's already turned looking in the direction he needs to be looking at. So my assumption was he already knew what was going to happen.
Okay.
And we see it halfway through the scene already. So like they could have had that conversation before he went on the platform. They could have had it at any time about what his plan is.
Gotcha.
But yeah, it only ever made sense for me for Sam to be captain because that's
100%.
his arc. That's his arc. Is he's constantly been like, "Oh, I just do what you do, but slower." Or I'm always on your side. And
or I'm
even
whatever,
in Ultron, when he's like, "Oh, like I would have called you if I knew the mission would go," he's like, I don't want that kind of responsibility.
Yep.
And so the fact that he's taking on this responsibility is a big deal.
What I meant was, and now that you re-explain the scene to me a little bit better, it makes sense why. Because I'm like, I thought Bucky would want to say hi or whatever to Steve because for some reason I thought he died, and he's like, no, that's not. He didn't die. Like, I'm being an idiot here.
No,
so like that's why I was just like, oh, okay. No, now that when you re-explain it that way, it definitely makes more sense. Yeah, nothing to say there now.
Who else is?
All right, what about the Ant-Man rat thing? Does that bother you?
No.
Okay.
It's got to happen somehow.
Well, I'm just like, I'm thinking of all the millions of scenarios that Doctor Strange saw. Maybe this is like, this is the exact thing that he saw. So I'm just like, I don't see why this is too far-fetched. I mean, like, if we're taking the ripple effects or butterfly effects or whatever from a space-time continuum standpoint, then yeah, the tiniest movements could have the biggest consequences, right?
Yeah, that rat is definitely the hero of the movie.
Yep.
Nothing happens if that rat doesn't turn on the machine.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. Whatever. People can complain about that all they want.
I think they're going to complain about the time travel more than the rat.
Yeah.
I think so.
I've seen a lot of online activity where they're complaining about that rat, but whatever. I don't care.
I could be wrong.
Yeah. I'm just glad that they actually had a movie where they actually got to wrap up very, very pleasingly many, many character story arcs and then begin new ones and combine new franchises, old franchises with new franchises or continuing franchises or whatever it might be. But it's exciting to me that we haven't seen the end of Thor, that we haven't seen the end of all these characters, that they're all coming back, and where they go from here is the new part that's difficult. Now, the thing that I found to be difficult is whether or not the Black Widow movie is going to follow the same issue as the Han Solo movie, where we were just like, when you know where a characters are going to go, it's hard to be excited for something like that. Are you going to be excited for the Black Widow movie, the standalone? Because they're gonna explore Budapest.
No, I never was excited about it though.
They have to do the Budapest thing.
Do they?
They keep referencing it so many times.
Yeah, sometimes it's just nice to be like, oh, that's their thing.
Isn't that the mission that Clint decided not to kill Natasha too?
Yeah, maybe. I don't know.
So that it must be that because like it's.
I actually don't think so. I think that would have been like, because just the way that they're like, This is a long way from Budapest. I don't think they would both have fond memories of it if that's the one where
That's true.
I think that's just probably their first mission they did
Together?
together.
That's fair.
Or maybe it was just that was... I know. I feel like the reading of This is a Long Way from Budapest is like...
Because they bring that
This
up
is the
multiple
first one,
times,
but like...
too.
Yeah, but maybe like...
They did it in Ultron, and they do it here, too.
But maybe it is... That was the hardest thing they did before being Avengers.
Right. But, yeah, because, I mean, it makes sense of why they would bring that up, because, like, when you go through
Like
traumatic...
we
like,
thought
kind of things,
Budapest was a big deal, but look at what we've been doing. And then now we're on a spaceship flying towards Vormir. This is definitely a long way from Budapest, is how I see it. I don't know that... I think that kind of thinking of it has to be about Budapest is exactly the trouble that Solo got into.
Exactly, yeah.
It would just be nice to like see her origin story.
Stuff.
You don't need to see you don't even need to get into how she gets to S.H.I.E.L.D. You can just see how she breaks away from the Red Room.
Do you have any thoughts about the Captain Marvel, how she appeared thing?
What?
A lot of people are just complaining.
Oh, like in the
fact
first scene?
Yeah, how she saves Tony and everything.
I
like
think
that.
that's the problem with keeping her mid-credit scene a mid-credit scene and not putting it in this movie. Or being like, hey, her mid-credit scene is online. You run the risk of people being like, well, I don't want to watch that. I'll just watch the movie. And then you don't remember that she already was on the ground with them first.
Yeah.
And that very easily for me could lead to her being like, oh, okay, I'll go get what's his face then.
See, that's what I thought.
If
but
that's
I
what you need, I'll go get him.
Yeah, I anticipate a lot of people being like, oh, this is stupid. Or, like, she just magically knew where he was. And I'm like, just like, no, like...
Yeah, I think it was a mistake to not have her. I think either
think
you
that
use
scene
her
needed
more,
to be
or like
in
you
the
have
movie a
more
little
of her before she flies off, or she just comes in at the end.
Yep.
It's fine to have her. I know people like to say Deus Ex Machina. I mean, it isn't. It's quite literally not that, but I understand that it's become that because of cinema sins. Deus Ex Machina would have to be that she legitimately saves them all.
Yes.
It's not just Deus Ex Machina because she comes out of nowhere and is kind of powered. She would have to legitimately save the day.
Yes.
Which she does not do.
She does.
But anyway, like if that happened, I think that would make more sense for how they used her. But they didn't, so it is what it is, and it just speaks to how much these movies are connected. Yeah. Is that you need to remember even mid-credit scenes because they play into these.
Yeah,
movies.
I'm sure. Like upon rewatch from me, I would see like, oh, here's this nod to this, that, you know, like here's a completion of this story or this dialogue. I'm going to think of more.
Well, I even thought it was funny, like when they get on Morag and Black Widow kicks that thing that Peter Quill kicks when he's singing.
Yeah.
I mean, then they just flat out show that scene again, but I like that she did. I'm like, oh, that's a nice little touch. That's just what people do when they get here.
I also liked re-seeing that scene from a different point of view, where it's like Red Bone's
just
not
like,
playing.
Oh,
like,
he's just an idiot.
This guy's an idiot. Yeah, he is. It's pretty funny.
Another thing that I thought was very sad, and it only works if you're seeing it for a second time. It doesn't really mean much the first time you watch it. Is when I was talking about how giddy and like happy Black Widow is in this movie, the fact that like when they're all on the platform and Cap gives a speech and she goes, "See you in a bit," to like Cap, like and you're like, well, that's the last time you're ever going to see him because you're going to die. You're not going to see him in a bit. I was like, that's actually a really sad moment now. But like there's stuff like that, as I said, that when you rewatch it, like means more.
Yeah, I'll bet.
Which I think leads to why I would be like, I would challenge you on your whole, this needs to be 15 minutes shorter, because
probably
you're using an arbitrary number. And
I am using
you're
an
not
arbitrary
even
number.
You're not even really saying anything, because I think there's so many things that build towards.
I'm completely
that
admitting to that, though. Like, I'm completely admitting to the fact that I'm working through this out loud because I haven't been able to do that. It's conference mode for that a little bit. But no, it just felt long to me. Where I could concretely give you examples of things that I would cut out to make it shorter, or make it feel better paced, or whatever. That's a conversation I think is going to continue for quite some time, especially after I rewatch it a few more times.
Because for me, it would be those two.
Yeah, the
Hawkeye stuff. Right? Like I wouldn't show the Ronin stuff just because it doesn't really factor into anything. We are told that he's having issues. I mean, it didn't. I didn't really look that cool to me, but like, it's nice. Like, I get that someone out there appreciates that. They're getting to see this version of the comic book character.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's a little fan payoff in the sense where it's like, oh yeah, he does that in the movies. Like, there's even like. There's so many, like, I watched this one Screen Rant, like, oh, here's 209 Easter eggs you missed or something like that. And they get to the point where, like, even one of the outfits that Steve Rogers wears or something like that has a last name of the guy that took over as Captain America in the comics when he turned into Nomad, when he took in the Nomad. Like, there was, like,
I
that
figured there
level
was
of shit.
something.
Yeah.
But yeah, that doesn't really slow the movie down.
It doesn't. That's
part
just
of
like that's like the very, very like payoff to the fans that like look through this thing with a fine comb at the end of the day. But yeah,
what else is there? I think we've gone through it all.
I think we've gone through it all. It's so hard because there's so much in this movie that just over the past 11 years. The funny thing I see about this, the issue with this movie is it's so complete that it leaves so little open. Like, there's not even a post-credit scene, which is great, but it makes it really feel like the end of the MCU. Whereas, like, that's a hard sell because, like, no, 2 months later we get Spider-Man, and that's, like, you know...
But then there
to
might
see
not
where
be
that
anything
goes.
for, like, 3 years.
And and you're absolutely right. And then there might not be anything for 3 years, or they might just be like, "Here's our Phase 4 announcement," and then like it might be the craziest thing in the world. Like, that's what I think this time around is like super, super different from a feeling standpoint for me, because we've always had the ability to be like, "Oh, this is next. This is next." It legitimately this time around, like Far From Home, the next Spider-Man movie that's coming up, it doesn't actually feel like the same degree of the level of excitement we've had. It actually feels like we're mourning the end of some sort of era for this.
Maybe.
To me, it does anyways. It really feels like, okay, this is the MCU. If they were to not make any more movies after that, I'd be like, that's a satisfying conclusion.
Yeah.
I'd be like, yep, that's a good way to end it. Reboot the whole universe now, or what do we do? It's like it's
well, no, we know they're injecting a lot of new blood into it.
But of course. But like, even then, when you're like, yeah, I don't need to see a Doctor Strange 2. Like,
yeah,
he's
but
done his
then
thing.
you also have
He's
the Eternals. They're gonna.
Totally.
They're doing Shang-Chi. I don't know. I remember how to say his name.
Shang-Chi is what it is, and I keep forgetting they're developing that one.
Well, I only bring it up to say that they're doing new characters, not just.
Sure. They're trying to find like real like B, C character.
Well, to be clear, Iron Man was like sea level before.
Well, that's what I mean.
These
Like,
movies,
Iron Man was sea level, and then they just
I think they teased Namor when she was like, "Hey, what are we doing with that earthquake?" And Okoye's like, "It's an earthquake under the water. We handle it by doing nothing but making a point of talking about the ocean." And the connection Namor has with Black Panther and Wakanda makes me feel like there's probably going to be a bunch of stuff that we noticed they've.
You think that's where they're going to go in like Black Panther 2? They're going to bring Namor in this?
I don't know if it's going to be in Black Panther 2. I'm saying there's another. I mean, he's already been hinted at.
Yeah.
And that was like another one.
Kind of like the same
reminder.
degree of like, Miles Morales was hinted at. And very little dialogue and all that kind of stuff.
I mean, that one was more direct, but yes. Something like that.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I guess my thing would be like, even if you're not that interested in Doctor Strange 2, there's other new stuff coming.
Yeah,
you don't have to worry about the sequel
fatigue. We're always
fatigue.
going to watch it and all that kind of stuff. It's not going to be a question whatsoever.
Let's rate the movie.
Yeah.
All right, you go for it. Let me know what you thought.
I'm giving this an 8.5.
Ooh, ding, ding, ding. We have the same score.
Do we really?
8.5.
Oh, my
Boom.
God. I did not expect that. What's your... Like, you seem to have enjoyed it way more than I have. Like, what's your 8.5? My 8.5 is like the idea, like, for some very irrational belief that I feel like it should be shorter. Why is your 8.5?
I will say that is irrational.
It's extremely irrational.
I mean, it was an 8 before this conversation, pretty much. Like, I like it. I think it's growing on me. The more I sit with it, obviously having seen it 3 times, that's giving me
I'm
all
just
the time.
not getting the same reaction I did out of Infinity War.
I don't know if it'll end up being something I like better than Infinity War. I
Infinity
think
War was so
there's an immediacy to Infinity War
Yeah.
that helps it.
Mm-hmm.
But having said that, I also like Kill Bill 2 better than Kill Bill 1 because there is the same kind of thing they do here where they kind of slow things down and let things breathe or let conversations happen. Obviously for Kill Bill 2 though, the upside is they've got Quentin Tarantino doing the dialogue.
Yes.
Whereas this movie feels like all they really have to not combat, but like on the same level as that are like improv moments. So like that scene where Hulk is at the diner and the kids are like, "Oh, we don't want a picture with Ant-Man," like that kind of stuff. That helps fill out scenes, but yeah, there is kind of a thing of like it just doesn't feel as immediate until that last chunk.
Yeah.
I don't think that makes it a bad movie. It just meant that I had to be like, I didn't feel as rah-rah about it as I did Infinity War, but I think it is growing on me.
Because Infinity War is definitely all rah. And this one just like, it's a lot of like, it's a very different movie altogether.
Yeah. So yeah, I think that factors into it. I think the ending does, and when I say the ending, I mean like everything after the funeral really feels clumsy. That doesn't help the movie to me. I don't think that will ever change for me. As much as I might like it more, I feel like that ending is still kind of like oof. Whereas, just by the nature of the movie, that the ending to Infinity War is very effective.
Yes.
It's like he sits down and you're like, oh shit, like they really are just ending on this.
Yep.
Whereas, that I don't know how to fix it because it is, when you said Return of the King, I had the same problem with that movie where I was like, oh boy, like he's another one, and it doesn't feel the same way now that I've seen it 3 times as Return of the King, but it's still the same problem. Like I'm never going to be able to get over that, and I don't know how to fix it because I do think all of those endings are important. I just don't know how you do that.
And I just really like where
unless those conversations happen at the funeral.
Yes,
but even then,
then it still makes it clunky. It still makes it so clunky.
Yeah. Anyway, I don't have an answer to that, but yeah. We didn't talk really about Ant-Man and how well I thought Paul Rudd did in this movie. Just saying, I really liked when he found his daughter. That was really good.
That was really emotional.
He played that really well, and I think he played the mania of getting out and being like, it's just a pause. It's actually when he's not talking, but it's the pause he does when he's talking about hope, and he's like, she was supposed to pull me out. Like there's this, he's doing this mania, and he's like finally catching up with himself. I think he's playing those serious moments really well. In addition to what I already like about his funny stuff and that crush that he has on Captain America.
I love that.
All of that stuff is
that
really good,
so
but
funny.
I'm saying he played the like emotional stuff really well as well.
I like the Evangeline line where it's like, "You got it, Cap," and then that look that they shared. It's like, "Yeah, I made fun of you for calling him Cap. Now I'm gonna do it too."
I think when you rewatch it, you'll see that's not what was happening.
The Ant-Man and the Wasp thing?
That wasn't happening.
No. But like he was just like, no, this is cool now. Like we're a part of this. I'm not making fun of you anymore. I'm acknowledging this. I'm being like, I'm validating or verifying what you're saying. Like, yeah, we can call him Cap now, kind of deal. Like I like that little moment that they had.
Okay,
yeah. That's what I meant more than like, no, he's not. I'm not saying that she's making fun of him.
Okay, I was like,
I'm just saying like, no, we're on the same page now. Yeah, you're cool. Even like in Ant-Man and the Wasp, when I rewatched it, like that little scene was like, well, one thing's for clear. If you had asked me, you wouldn't have gotten caught, kind of deal. And now it's kind of like, because I really like the breakdown that Louise gives about like why Scott and like eventually they're not together anymore. Like I really like that breakdown. It's just like, okay, that would make sense that it would strengthen their relationship here because like he includes her into this kind of thing, right? But at the same time, it's like
he didn't really. Ask her.
No, he was just like, no, we have to get you back, and we got to get the rest of the thing back. But it was really nice to see like he still had that motivation even after he found Cassie.
Yes,
That was really, really good to me because he could have been like very easily like, kind of like the Iron Man thing, where it's like, listen, I've made the best of the situation already. This kind of worked out decently well for me, so I'm just gonna sideline myself. So
Yeah, it was really good.
it was nice that he had that push.
I thought Paul Rudd did a great job. I think everyone who was given like heavy lifting to do did a good job.
Yeah, that's a very
That's
important
how
thing
I
for
would
you to
put
say,
it.
because there's a lot of stuff that
I even really liked Josh Brolin's thing of being like, I used to just do this because it needs to happen, but fucking up your planet's going to make me very, very happy. I'm going to enjoy this a lot.
Yeah.
I was like, well, that was good line reading. I know I didn't even say the line properly, but just the way he did it was great.
Yeah.
I thought it was. So yeah, that's Endgame.
that's Endgame.
So thank you very much for listening.
Of an 11-year saga.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we shall see, because apparently,
Well, it's certainly the
Spider-Man
end
is-
of Iron Man
Yeah.
and Black Widow.
And Black
even
Widow.
though she's getting a movie after this.
Yes.
So not technically the end.
Yeah.
Anyway,
We'll
it's
see.
it's definitely closing out the Iron Man and Thanos stories.
Yep.
So that's nice. And we are closing out this podcast. So thank you for listening. Please go to thatshelf.com to find other great podcasts like Black Hole Films. Maybe they'll talk about Endgame. I don't know.
Like, comment, share, do your thing.
Yeah.
Tell us if you have a better.
I have to name the other podcast. You can't get to this part yet.
No, but like, tell us like the thing. Yeah, you can do that. But like, also like, if you have a good way of explaining the time travel thing to me and Dan, do that.
Yeah.
Because I would like to know that a little bit better.
All right. So after you see thatshelf.com and you listen to other podcasts like Black Hole Films, No Budget Nightmares, that's a good theme song, as well as Bad Gay Movies and Highly Logical and other ones that I didn't forget, but for time's sake, I will move on. You can also go to tdfeverything.com/spoiledrotten, where you will see other episodes from Ben and I, but you'll also see where you can like, subscribe, and share our stuff via Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Play, Stitcher, Radio Public, all there, and our social media, so you can get in touch with us and let us know what you thought about the time travel or the movie in general.
Yep. Do all that.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
This has been a TDF Everything production, brah.